live now. Let's click on this. Yeah, I can hear it. 'Tis happening.
'Tis bappening.
Now, do I want to log in and make sure we're watching the chat?
Yeah, why not?
We can do that on the Mac as well if you want, but yes, it doesn't hurt to have it go on twice. It's quite a delay.
Yeah, it's significant. Okay, I can see it on here anyway, and I'll just put this here.
Oh,
I'll just mute this.
Yeah, you will.
All right. So we're streaming, we're not recording.
Cast the theme song.
Oh, God damn.
We're masters of technology.
No, that was
Yeah.
really loud.
Almost as bad as a mic drop moment.
Oh, my
The
God.
poor audio guy. Let me know when you're ready to push play.
Yeah,
Frank, and I'll
everyone
just-
goes, mic drop, and the audio guys go, don't fucking drop the mic.
Are we ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
Is that playing?
Hello and welcome to the BAP. It is the 28th of August for 2016. We are broadcasting from the Progressive Bubble. My name is Franco and joining me are my Wibble Wobblers, the Abets team, Dean and Jason. Welcome.
Why
Thank
are we
you.
Wibble Wobblers and why are we the Abets team?
Well,
Are we Tasmanian now?
Well, didn't he say something during the week about Bill Shorten being Mr.
Oh.
Wibble Wobble?
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to Eric Abets anymore.
I don't think a lot of people do. That's why he has to come out with these catchy phrases, Dean, to get you back into the
just,
fold.
Just reinvigorate the public's interest in the man.
Team Turnbull.
I think they'll make
Is he on Team Turnbull? Because he's one of the key white hunters at the moment.
Well, actually, I technically mispronounced and said Teen Turnbull.
Oh, Team Turnbull.
Team Turnbull?
Well, that's a show I might watch.
What was he like as a teen?
Probably a
Does
cunt.
anyone really?
Doesn't he have a hard luck story about...
We should probably put a
No,
language
no,
warning
no,
at the front of the show.
No,
I
that's
guess,
it.
now.
That's the level we're achieving today.
That's the limit of my abilities, I'm afraid.
So normally at this time of the show, we do douchebag filter, and I'm a bit skint. I don't have douchebag news per se about any TV, cultural stuff going on, but I have news about a douchebag.
I've got
A
a piece
serial douchebag.
of serial douchebag.
Yes, Sam Barnett, son of Colin Barnett, Premier of Western Australia.
Oh, I love
has
hearing.
been slapped with a restraining order with his new girlfriend model. They all seem to be models for some reason, and he seems to be incapable of keeping himself outside of the news. They were returning from a trip from China on the 11th of August, not 11th, 16th of August, sometime recently.
Get your facts straight, Frank, before you call someone a douchebag.
The police met them as they were disembarking the plane, and subsequently a restraining order was placed on Sam Barnett by Samantha, what's her name here, Strevakova, something like that. She's Russian, I think. Samantha
The BAP, where all our facts are double checked.
Shvetsova.
Shvetsova.
Shvetsova. Yes.
Apparently she's a model of some sort.
And that's who he was on the plane with?
Yes, which is
So-
confusing. I don't know.
Obviously, they had a fight mid-flight.
Mid-flight, and she. Wow, that's showing some real resolve to be able to get a restraining order sorted out mid-flight.
Well, I don't think that's exactly what happened. The article wasn't clear. So obviously...
the cops probably showed up because they got into a kerfuffle on the plane and they were getting in trouble for that. And then she's like, "Hey,
and
you
then
know what?
subsequently,
Fuck this,
the week
restraining
later.
order time."
Yeah. So yeah, well done, Sam, once again for making the news. He also made the news. I don't know
Twice,
if it was this
yeah.
week or last week about
Was this week?
short shrifting some rural woman up near Geraldton from her property. No, near
Yeah.
Broome.
He was going to buy 2 packages of land for a total, I think it was 600,000 or
Yes.
500,000. He agreed with her to buy the first one for 140,000 cash on the basis he would get finance and pay the bulk on the other one, and then he backed out of that
So he ended up with one block of land
for like half price.
Oh wow, this he sounds a bit Trump-like, doesn't he?
Well, look,
He's a second
he
generation
certainly
douchebag.
mastered the deal.
He's a second generation douchebag.
Yeah, how about I pay you less than half what the land is worth? Done.
It's the seed hasn't fallen far from the tree, and he's actually been able to
What, you saying
raise the level.
You're saying Colin Barnett dates models and gets in fights on
Well,
planes?
this is the problem. Like, I personally,
wishes.
in my opinion, find Colin Barnett a douchebag.
Do you? I voted for him, so I can't. I can't say that.
Yeah.
I can say that as my opinion.
You
It's not
certainly
based on
can.
any sort of
I'm
fact.
I feel compelled
But-
to defend the man because I voted for him.
Extrapolating on opinion, I think Sam's doing.
I think you need to
finer
defend
job.
yourself a little bit more about that.
Well, it was entirely over a football stadium. I have a price,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah,
walking
fair
distance to a football stadium.
Technically, you didn't vote for Sam Barnett or Colin Barnett. You voted for your Steve Irons.
He's a federal member, but sure, I didn't vote for him.
Oh, so you directly voted for Colin Barnett.
Well, no, not directly for Colin. It was in the state election. I voted against Ben Wyatt, who I actually like. He's a decent bloke and a really great member of parliament. He still holds the seat.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Mr. Wyatt.
So Dean's expressing his middle class
Somewhat
privilege
remorse,
right here in that.
yeah, but
And that he can vote for a douchebag because it's not really going to hurt him, and he may get a stadium out
I
of it.
did get a stadium out of it.
Were you protecting your privilege?
I was trying to get more privilege.
Yeah,
I wanted the football stadium not in Subiaco to be at Burswood so I could walk there.
that's it.
That was it. That was the entire... And also, Metronet is a shitty policy. They keep bringing this to every election. What's your major policy? Oh, I don't know, fucking Metronet. Because that's won us 0 votes, 2 elections running.
What's Metronet?
You've never heard of Metronet?
No, I've seen Metronet going around
There's
town.
many
There's a Metronet
Portions of
Wi-Fi.
it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's upgrading our rail systems and adding light rail and putting in extra
Metronet
lines.
I don't find
Circle
there's a
routes.
problem with Metronet. I find
It's
there's
just not a
problem
vote winner.
that They keep on bringing it out and never going through with it.
Yeah, but not a vote. Well, they don't get in power, do they?
Well, we talked about it, didn't they? They want to bring out these massive plans for
I mean, let's be
for
honest.
expanding the rail net and also and light rail and everything, and nothing. I mean, you can see the plans they came up with a couple of weeks ago. And almost none of them are probably going to get realised.
Yeah. Well, Collins pretty much emptied the state's coffers and then some on his various infrastructure projects, which are quite nice. Elizabeth Quay is, I mean, aside from it being named after Queen Elizabeth, is quite nice.
Have you been there recently?
Yeah. I mean, I work right around the corner. So
I work directly in front of it, and it's almost nothing there. It's just
no, I know there's nothing there, but it's a nice looking
it's a
bridge.
nice
know.
looking nothing.
Yeah, well, it was nothing before. It was a park, and now there's like a marina and stuff with no boats. It could one day maybe be a marina.
Yeah, I guess they're going to put something there eventually.
So
There's a bar there, Reveille Bar. Have you been to that one?
Nah.
Neither have I. I don't know what he's been.
Stop your wibble wobble. You've got real douchebag news, Dean.
Oh, no, well, I was just going to say, I was, just before I came out today, I was watching Jim Jeffries' Netflix special, the recent one. And he had this joke in the middle where he's complaining about how he got some bad press at home in Australia because his last special, he's done 5, by the way, was a bit misogynistic. And he was saying, look, it's unfair because all of his specials have been a bit misogynistic. But it's gone a bit too far this time because people have taken to Twitter to pick on his girlfriend and the mother of his children for dating someone like him. And he said, look, that kind of behaviour has to stop. She has chores to do. Just doubling down on the misogyny. I was like, and he also had this really long bit about Bill Cosby and rape, which was just amazing as well. But he said he had to preface this legally by saying that Jim Jeffries does not in any way endorse rape or find it funny. He's just making light of the situation because people seem to find that joke distasteful as well.
Yeah, I've always Jim Jeffries I've always found very funny, but just slightly disturbing because I was never quite sure whether it was entirely a joke for him or not, and I'm pretty much convinced it is. Although sometimes he seems a little too.
Yeah, it's
tune.
definitely the character he plays.
Yeah,
he does it really well. I quite enjoy his stand-up.
I also
he's
saw
very
the special and did find that the Bill Cosby tomfoolery quite hard to listen to.
It went on and on. Like, it was funny for a bit, and then I was like, man, this is imagine your favorite thing, and now replace it with rape. And you're Bill Cosby. He loves rape.
And he sort of pursues
It kept going and
line for
going
about
and
5
going
minutes.
and going.
Wow.
Another aspect of that show was I forget, it was a while back when I saw it, but he was making the claim, was saying they call me like a pussyfoot because I do all this sort of comedy in northern states. So here I am in Louisiana or wherever
Yeah.
he happened to be in deep south,
Yeah.
making light of the southerners.
Yeah, no, it was good. He definitely didn't shy away from his potentially controversial material.
Because wasn't he talking about trope voters being stupid?
Trump voters
Yeah.
or trope voters? People who vote for tropes. There's not enough tropes in modern society.
Give me more tropes.
Any other douchebag news?
That's all I got.
I've
I
not
watched
been
TV.
watching any TV, so I've
Same.
No, I've
to
been-
the fore.
Seen much TV at all.
The only thing
Movies,
I've
haven't seen
been-
much.
I'm still going on with Marco Polo, but I've really talked as far as I can go on that.
I still haven't caught up with Stranger Things yet at all.
Like
Not
at
the
all.
slightest. Well, for shame, but I've got that to look forward to, haven't I?
It's quite good.
So, what happened this week, fellas?
Well, there was the infamous burkini ban taking effect in France.
Yeah, and Corsica. They seem to have been going a bit burkini mad over there.
Yeah, I think they'd be trying to push it here in some places as well. I suspect if they could.
Well,
So I think
bikini bans,
hijab bans.
hijab
and-
bans.
Yeah.
I find it really odd, though. It's like, it may sound weird.
So I'll give the
Women can either wear. There's like a mid range, right? You can't wear too little or you're a slut. If you wear too much, you're a victim of this Islam cult.
I'll give the
This is
listeners
his band of what they're allowed to wear. It's fucking bullshit.
I'll give the listeners a little bit of background. So, a few municipalities in France, so it's not France-wide, a few
No.
municipalities have issued they don't call it a burqa ban. Nowhere in their legislation is the word burqa used. I think the exact language is the beachwear must be respective of good public manners and principles of secularism. So that's the definition they're looking for. That, broadly speaking, could fit almost anything that person on the spot decides it to be.
It's good that you give police broad powers they could abuse. That works out
Huge
well.
broad powers.
What if I'm wearing a big JC cross?
Well, apparently, depending on
Is
the
that
cop.
respective of secularism? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's right. But so that was the language put in there, and I don't
And
think
how are you wearing it? Is it like nailed to your back? Or
What if I've got a psalm tattooed on my arm? Would that be...
so. Not a whole lot of noise was made until suddenly these images started circulating of police actually enforcing the rule and issuing a fine to a particular Muslim woman who was on a beach, not wearing a bikini, just fully clothed,
just lying on the beach?
on
yeah.
the beach, fully clothed, and she ended up taking some of the clothes off to reveal a short sleeve shirt. It's not clear as to whether they forced her to do that, but they did actually issue her a fine. So her name was where is it? Sorry.
This is good radio.
Yeah, I know. Her name was Siam, and the ticket said that her clothes did not conform with good manners and public decency. And
Which is the exact same fucking thing people would be charged for in a Muslim country if they're wearing too little.
yeah, so her quote was, "I wasn't in a bikini, I wasn't in a burqa, I wasn't naked, so I considered my clothing appropriate."
Yeah.
So this went forward in about 5 sort of municipalities, including one including Cannes and Nice, and the higher court within France has actually said that this ban is unconstitutional and cannot be enforced. However, there's no way to force it onto the municipalities as yet. Other agencies need to step in and start taking those municipalities to court. So there's a few that are stepping forward to do that. But in the meantime, we've got the footage of certain police enforcing this kind of rule, and as you said, it seems like a fairly strange thing to
It's
give.
fucking
police
arbitrary.
broad powers.
Yeah.
Completely arbitrary. So, I mean, Franco and I were discussing this beforehand. So, technically speaking, you can't wear a full-length wetsuit down the beach.
No. I find it really, I don't understand how these people, they're going, well, we're trying to defend women from the oppression they suffer under these systems. And they apply the same level of oppression to them, and they don't get the irony.
Let's face it, the people that do this are only applying that we're trying to save women in an ironic sense. They're not really terribly interested in that.
No, they're just
they're
trying
more
to oppress
terribly
Muslims,
interested in pissing off Muslims. And the whole, and then of course,
I wonder how that works out well for them, because the last time they pissed off some Muslims, they drove a bus down a crowded street.
well, yeah, and there's
Killed a bunch
one
of
of the
people.
things that came up was so these municipalities are actually threatening to sue people who disseminate the pictures of the police enforcing the rule.
But I saw that too, yeah.
And so they're saying that they're endangering the police, and the strange thing is, aren't you endangering the police by making them enforce stupid laws over that may piss off or radicalise more Muslims by targeting them specifically?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one way you put more police in danger. But then,
But they seem to be taking a book out of Peter Dutton's "We Don't Talk About on Water Matters." I mean, this is pretty close to the water.
on beach.
On Beach Matters, we don't
Beach
talk
Matters.
about it. No photos.
It's sad to think that the French surrendered to the Germans or the Nazis in 1938-42, only to be rescued by the Americans to impose arbitrarily ridiculous laws.
Yeah, I mean, France has had probably the brunt of terror attacks in Europe against them lately, so you can understand why people might be a bit afraid and a bit scared and seeking to enact change in whatever way they can. But this is not the way you go about it.
Well, Jason and myself, in a discussion off air, hypothesised this was just a matter of enabling people to say big fuck you to Muslims.
Yeah, it really is. That's what it feels like. It doesn't. I mean, the inventor of the burkini is an Australian woman, and she was actually quoted in saying the burkini and most of the stuff she was designing had very little to do with religious requirements or anything like that. It was more about being sun smart. Whereas you get lots of kids in Australia these days who wear full length steamers and things like that. Well, not steamers, but rashies and stuff like that to keep the sun off them because it's so much safer. And putting a ban like this in place just seems to arbitrarily you're going to ban someone who wears something that looks vaguely more like a burqa than someone else who's wearing a...
See, this all seems like it anomaly stemmed from an incident, I think it was in Corsica, where allegedly two men were offended at some people on the beach taking photos of, I used my quotes, their women, and so they went a bit crazy. So rather than dealing with the issue of, well, sorry, hey, guys, you can't go crazy at people. You're on a public space. People look at each other. You can't. That's not an acceptable reaction in public. No, they went, all right, fuck you. You women can't wear what they choose to wear.
Well, and it was actually, I mean, the reason that is cited by the people in the municipalities that forced the law through is that it's in seeking to improve public order, so or avoid a dissolution of public order, because they feel like, especially in places like Nice, directly affected, having burqas on the beach may cause people to get pissed off. I don't know. We've had beachside riots in Sydney before, haven't we? that went
riots
went decidedly racist rather quickly. I guess
we do racism pretty hardcore in this country.
we're pretty good at it.
It's one of our things. If it involves alcohol or racism or a lack of intelligence in a general way.
I don't think we're a net exporter of it, though. We mostly import it.
It's homegrown. It's
homegrown.
We don't like importing people of any race.
Sort of like languages. We have our own
we do.
flavour.
The British. That's the imported race.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
All the UKIP people that want to come over here because they think we're doing it right.
Yeah, Jesus. I did see one of the things related to this I thought was quite good. I saw a couple of French bikers go on the beach and lay down in their full riding leathers and helmets, calling it the motorkini, and just seeing if they would get targeted by cops until
it's
taken
good.
off.
And I suppose it's one of these things where everyone should be trying to do that. Just go down and keep testing these laws as far as they can.
I need a David Lionhelm over there, getting in there, mixing things up a bit.
It's a strange thing to have to defend like these. I mean, if I was in France and finding this law, the application of this law, totally ridiculous and wanting to protest it, but then again, it's like I find any religion that has some weird dress rules just nonsense. But if three individuals want to do it, knock yourselves out.
Right,
I find
right.
Whether it's Jewish, Christian, Islam, when they have these little weird requirements that you have to wear this, that, the other, I find it totally
No one should be in the business
of telling... But if you want to do it,
No one should be in the business of telling women what to wear.
But,
and certainly adding the state into the list of things that should be telling women what to wear is not the right way to go about it.
I don't think there's anything wrong though. I mean, you look at some religions like the Sikh faith. They don't cut their hair. They always wear the turban and stuff. Like I think it's kind of cool. It's a dedication. It's a show of their faith, and the same is true for the burqas for a lot of women. It's just
but no one should be telling them. And if they want, if they choose to wear that, then it's certainly.
Yeah, no one's not the place of the state. Not the place of anyone tells them what to wear.
They shouldn't be fining someone for choosing to wear whatever they want to wear. Yeah.
What if they wanted to wear a Nazi uniform?
Oh, it's interesting because I think outside of Germany that's fine, but in Germany that's
fine.
actually illegal.
Yeah, that would be not cool.
Absolutely. I don't know. It's one of those things. It comes back to that situation where I'd rather have those people out loud and proud where I can see them.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm not.
I just feel like stomping around France, goose stepping. I'll say goose stepping around France in a Nazi uniform.
I'm not the one that would directly be affected by those people being in that uniform.
What are you talking about? You're wearing that uniform right now.
So exactly, I wouldn't be affected.
It's a little weird in the
I'm already
control
there.
booth right now.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so people that would be affected, for example, Jewish people, seeing that kind of uniform around. I mean, it's all very well for us to say, hey, yeah, let them wear their Nazi uniform and everything like that. That's fine. But people that have a history or have been affected by this, they're the ones that, they're the ones that are affected by it. It's not for us to say whether.
How do you feel about Civil War recreationists in America who wear the uniforms of the South when they replay those battles?
I find it bizarre. Yeah.
What about returning servicemen who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan?
What about them?
Well, when they see people in Muslim dress,
or in
the same argument extends,
or in
It's interesting.
or in future decades when we look back on the invasion of Iraq as the illegal exercise that it was, and we're the ones
I
that
currently look at it that way.
So,
we look at that, but the whole of history.
And
hasn't.
where I'm going with this is that I don't think you need to apply laws to say what people can and can't wear. I think into some aspects it's self-policing, because basically societies have a general consensus of what they sort of accept, and those who sort of buck the trends have to be brave enough to go, well, I'm going to live with society's judgment of what I'm doing. So if you walk down the street in a Nazi uniform, no policeman's going to come and tell you to take it off, but you're going to have to deal with a lot of people staring at you and giving you mighty frowns. Are you happy to do doing that?
Or clapping you on the back and saying, "Good on you, buddy." As some of them would be
That'd be
to do
weird.
as well.
Hey,
There'd be some doing that.
I mean, imagine if you were doing like just ironically.
The people who
walking
voted for
around.
Pauline Hanson, and there seems to be a large number of them, probably wouldn't have a huge problem with it.
She has SS Waffen insignia.
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So
However,
I have a segue from this story if we're done talking about it. I mean, we can
Have we butchered the subject
I think
significantly
we
enough
treated it
to
with-
confuse people of where we lie on the
we
subject?
treated it with the significance, the disrespect to which it.
So in Adelaide, the Campbelltown City Council this week rejected a plan rejected the application of the Punjabi Association to hold a Diwali festival on one of their parks on the grounds that ethnic groups have a habit of hiding behind their language. Like they just no, you can't use our park. It was all set to pass. Everything was good to go, and then two of the councillors, the ironically named John Kennedy and Neville Grigg, stepped in and vetoed it and just said basically a bunch of racist shit.
What
And
do they mean by hiding behind their language? What do they mean by that?
they don't like Indians, apparently. That's all I could take away from this. And then they're now talking about allowing them to have the festival, but not to have fireworks, which is like a key part of the festival for them. It seems entirely. I mean, like I was saying before, Australians do racism pretty well, even at the local government level. We're doing our forefathers
We're excelling.
proud or
We're
not
excelling.
proud. I'm not sure.
So
They're probably getting patted on the back by those Nazi guys.
apparently, any idiot wearing a flag as a cape can get some kind of permit to let fireworks off on Australia Day, but the Punjabi people can't
Can't do it for their festivals, no.
Can't do it for a simple festival.
It's funny you mentioned this because, I mean, racism...
It's funny because I'm
cuts through
standing up for Indians and you think it's funny that people treat them like humans? Or
It's out of character, Dean.
All
It's out of
cross sections of society. And what's always amazed me is in my interactions with older people in the workforce who don't realise that a lot of things they're saying are actually racist. And they think... And it's funny what they'll say, even when there's what they would consider ethnic people in the room, still this inappropriate stuff comes out of their mouth without a bat of the eyelid. Like the amount of time in the last place I worked where there were quite a few older folk, the amount of times I heard the word Negro, it's like my mouth drops so many times. It's like, and that
were they
in
ordering
their mind,
Italian
they thought
coffees?
they were using the politically correct term.
I've had the pleasure of having our extended family all in one area due to a certain event that happened within my family. And so a lot of people come from around Australia. And we now have a very mixed ethnic family. And yeah, I'm sitting there listening to some of the conversations, just like you're saying, then someone will rattle off something about Asians. And I'm like, don't you see the Vietnamese family that we have right here? And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
what were they were saying something negative, I'm guessing, about Asians.
It's very not maybe not negative, but very generalistic.
You know,
Generalised.
this is probably going to sound insensitive of me, but if you've got Vietnamese members of your family, you should talk to them and get some cooking lessons because Vietnamese food is one of my favorite things.
If we want to generalize, let's generalize that way.
They are fucking amazing at cooking, and if you could learn like just all of their recipes and then cook every week for us at the BAP, maybe without the Nazi uniform, because frankly it's a little offensive. But if you need to leave it on, Nazi Chef Jason, that's fine. Just don't go baking anything in the gas ovens.
Maybe a Duarte mask or Duterte mask.
My
Maybe.
sister-in-law
A more modern form of
is in fact.
Nazism.
Did you see? He was in the news
amazing
this week when America obviously criticizing about the extrajudicial killings in his country, and he was like, "You know what? I'm fucking concerned about the extrajudicial killings in your country of all the black people." Boom!
Did he say that?
Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
wow.
Who was that?
Duterte.
Filipino
Prime Minister, you know, the guy who's currently murdering people in the
Yeah.
streets. When condemned by the Yanks, he was like, "Oh, interesting. You're worried about extrajudicial killings, like your cops are doing to the black people who
Yeah.
live there."
That is,
Boom.
it was bound to come back at him
Yeah.
eventually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And this is the same thing as, I mean, just as a what goes around comes around kind of situation. I watched a movie last night, which was around the drone program and stuff. And the fact that Turkey, you know, was thinking, mentioned something about starting up their own drone program and doing all sorts of strikes and whatever they fucking feel like with on terrorists. And there's, of course, China's going to be doing it because they've got drones. And that's the kind of turnaround. It's like no one can speak out about it because you've got to look at your own backyard before you can actually get into it.
Turkey actually carried out a bunch of airstrikes into Syria.
Not
this
only
week.
that, they advanced tanks into Syria as
Wow.
well. I heard a pretty good story where they were talking about the reason behind it was because the Kurds were being so successful.
Kurds were about to take those towns.
They
So
were looking to take their own territory and hold on to it, and the Turks cannot allow that. Yeah?
No.
And Erdogan's saying, well, part of the Kurdish forces is the YPG, which are listed as a terrorist organization and said to be terrorist by the Turks. And the Turks are saying, well, they're terrorists. Even though the Yanks are backing them with military weapons at the moment, they're terrorists. So we see that this is valid. And there's not much you can do because once you throw that word terrorism around, then that's
Anyone
to
can use it.
legitimize it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is the problem America created for themselves when they started declaring a war on terror.
Yeah.
And you got these non-government organizations with military weapons, and they're all technically terrorists. And if someone like Turkey doesn't like them, fuck it, they're just going to go after them because that's what America does.
Because
you've set the precedent.
You said what we can do to terrorists. We have a list of what we consider a terrorist. You may have your list, but they may not always be the same.
Yeah. And obviously for Erdogan, it includes, you know, all the judges and the teachers and anyone.
And that
associated.
guy in Philadelphia that he
Yeah,
specifically wants.
The Guren guy.
Yeah. And that's causing no end of issues with between America because I don't know whether he's just using it as a bargaining chip, saying you've got this guy that we consider a terrorist, and they're using that as leverage because, of course, Turkey is the second largest army in the NATO alliance as well. I mean, they carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And they're pretty pivotal to that Middle East sort of policy and everything. So
It'll be interesting to see how much. I mean, the Americans had no problem with them doing what they did recently in Syria. They were like, you know what, it's cool. They backed the Turks, publicly backed the Turks. They might not have privately backed them.
what are you going to do?
But, you know, and the Kurds were expecting them to back them. And they were like, hey, sorry, guys.
Yeah, you might remember this same story. Remember this movie from 1991 when we invaded Iraq, said we're going to help you out, and then we walked the fuck away?
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
And who was the afflicted people? The Kurds.
Exactly. They
Or
walked-
if you remember Charlie Wilson's War, the story about Afghanistan when they were selling Stinger rockets to the Afghans at the time to fight the Soviets, and then they just fucked it off and walked
they
away.
just walked away
Yeah,
again.
this is a common thread for them.
Yeah. No one. Why would anyone trust the Americans on that sort of level?
Well, I mean,
I'll guarantee the
you
Kurds.
can trust them to
the
give you
Kurds
weapons
probably
for a
weren't
while.
trusting them terribly much either. It was very much a moment of convenience.
I mean, it's free guns.
Free guns.
You don't need the guns, need the bullets.
So while we're still on the subject of cultural sensitivities or just general culture issues in general, this week Fremantle City Council voted to abandon its annual Australia Day fireworks program. So they won't be holding...
So the Punjabis can't get it when they apply for it, and Fremantle's just abandoning fireworks
Don't
altogether.
want
no one's having fireworks.
Yeah, well, that's fair, I guess, if no one really has them. But
So basically...
why aren't Fremantle doing it?
So, according to Mayor Brad Petit, he said the primary
Is
consideration...
he a large man or a petite man?
I don't believe he's actually petite.
I'm just curious if it was an ironic name or not.
He said his primary consideration was around sensitivity to Aboriginal feelings about a national holiday marking the day of invasion and slaughter. So, for
wow.
international listeners, which we have an abundance of, Australia Day is celebrated on the 26th of January and celebrates when white Australia came to town.
The founding of the nation, yes, the white nation. So,
Yes.
I mean, with completely ignoring the fact that there were many people already here. Yeah.
So,
But I mean, technically, they weren't considered people at the time, so
Well, not by the white people,
they
no.
weren't. They were they were fauna.
Yeah.
So Mayor Brad Petit wants to use the money. That, I think it costs him about $100,000 a year or $1 million.
Good research.
I did have the number somewhere. They're going to try and come up with something that's more inclusive and celebrate it on a different
Could be
day.
$3 for all we know.
It's at least $100,000. And this generated the storm of controversy. You can imagine your mainstream news outlets, Channel 9, I'm looking at you, reported this purely as Fremantle Council abandons fireworks program in no context.
Abandons Australia Day. I mean, isn't that actually the biggest story? They're talking about. Are they talking about the fireworks or the fact that he's actually calling out Australia Day as an invasion day, as being culturally insensitive?
I mean, if any area of Western Australia was going to call it out for what it is, it'd be Fremantle. They are somewhat left-leaning.
Or maybe
compared to
Margaret
other
River.
areas.
Oh, no, Margaret River's a bit blue-blooded.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of rich landowners there these days.
Right.
Mind you, Fremantle the same, really. But, there's... I think it's good that they're calling it out.
I think it's good. I didn't realise that was the actual reason. That's an actual valid...
Yeah, well, it was put to the vote, so it wasn't purely on the mayor's decision.
So you just arbitrarily veto it because of ethnic groups.
No, so
speaking their
it
own
was put to
language.
the vote. It was approved. They got a lot of support from it, from the local community. Obviously, they had a lot of dissension from the broader community.
All the Australian flag cape wearers are going to be pretty pissed off about this.
I'll just be at the South Perth for sure.
Well, they usually are anyway, but now they have even more reason to be angry. And there'll be more of them concentrated there.
That I haven't gone for years.
I think the one thing I liked about
you can't drink at South Perth, so why is everyone going there?
The one thing I enjoyed, like Fremantle had its own fireworks. I remember Armidale was doing it. I think Midland had their own, and it was good because...
No, that's just Midland on a
sort
Friday night. That's just shit exploding.
It just spread shit out on Australia Day, so it wasn't such a crazy...
Except in Midland where people are dying.
Look, I've not been a fan of Australia Day for quite some time. I've seen it just as purely a day that encourages yobbos to run around with flags and, be aggressive to not only the general public but
just
to minorities.
like a Reclaim Australia rally, actually.
Yeah,
Reclaim. It's just such a poor name. If it was in like an Aboriginal activist group called Reclaim Australia, great name.
Truth.
But for white people who are already pretty much in power and
when
occupying...
did you lose it and who's got it?
How the fuck did you lose this giant country? Like, it's very easy to see.
Who are you reclaiming it from again?
Yeah.
You're in the majority, you realise that.
Yeah, there's nothing to reclaim.
Now, I don't know if this was specific to my childhood, but I don't remember, being in primary school and remembering Australia Day being a thing or nationalism in general being a thing. I don't know if that was my childhood in general, but it was something I remember becoming more evident in my 20s.
I remember in my childhood they would play the national anthem. We all had to stand up and stand to attention. I fucking hated that. Even as a kid, it was like, why?
I seem to remember Anzac Day being more of a nationalist day, and Australia Day only became really big when the Sky Show started.
Yeah.
Because that was marking it every time, and it was a huge thing. So
in my childhood, what we covered
Inappropriate
more...
Friends Day.
and now it's all about the Triple J Top 100.
That's how it is for me.
Hottest 100,
yeah.
We covered a lot more about Banjo Patterson. We covered the Simpson and his donkey, those aspects.
Yeah.
Now it's more focused on, classic battles and remembering the guns and the bullets. It all seems to be focused on that more now.
There was an interesting thing with...
we seem to be appropriating American culturalism, but putting an Australian flavour to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flag waving.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel that way when you put it that way as well. There was another case where Australian soldiers wanted to memorialise the Long Tan battle in Vietnam, and the Vietnamese said, "Hang on, you want to memorialise a battle on our country where you're our enemy, and our country? You want us to allow that?" So they banned it, and I went, "It's probably pretty fair."
Yeah, they've always been sensitive to it, and they haven't previously blocked people wanting to go there and pay respects in a quiet manner. But this was a certain milestone, and hundreds of people rocked up, and the authorities go, "No." We've got our own, propaganda going on. We're going to allow you to come in.
They looked at him a little bit like people look at American Civil War recreation.
I mean, to be fair, we were a hostile invader.
Exactly. And we're going to celebrate a victory we had over them.
But I mean, the other thing that's interesting though is you look at
at least we had the good sense to lose the one in Turkey, and they let us go back there for that one.
But the Turkey one sort of brings the nations together. It's kind of nice,
and we lost, so it's fine.
Even if we had it, I just think it's one of the great parts of Turkey. Turkey have historically been really good under Ataturk, and following not so good now. Erdogan's is just letting people come, but I just think that's nice, that they acknowledge that a lot of people died, and it's a shame that we can't come to some similar arrangement with Vietnam, because we have a very strong shared history with.
I think because there's probably a difference of scale in that 500 Australians died in Vietnam, and maybe I don't know, maybe 5
I
million.
don't believe the Turks
I'm
would
not
allow
sure.
us to go there celebrating if we had won.
Don't know. My
I
favorite.
What if we'd won at the Turks? That's what I mean. Yeah, if we'd won,
I don't think they'd be allowing
it
us
maybe
to,
wouldn't be such a.
You know, they're very honourable in victory.
Yeah.
That's right. We were the ones that lost a lot. more
Help us remind our people that we won, and these are the people we beat, and they keep on coming to remember they were beaten.
Yeah. I think my favourite quote about insurgency campaigns comes from the Vietnam War, which is, I can't remember the name of the guy who said it, but it was like, America will not always be in Vietnam, but Vietnam will always be in Vietnam. Talking about the people. Just proving you can't win. Do what you want, stay as long as you want. We're still going to try and fucking resist this.
Well, they keep doing it, don't they? So
Yeah, well, it's happening all over the world, really.
Iraq, Afghanistan, they're just going to keep hanging around there.
Fucking arming dissidents in Syria. CIA funding the revolutionaries in the Ukraine, trying to overthrow Turkey from the sound of things, potentially as well. Funding the Saudi Arabian war in Yemen, which, indiscriminately just firing on people.
We haven't really talked about what they've been doing in South America either. So.
No, well, that's a long history as well. But probably not the topic of the show. I'm gonna switch topics. If that's okay.
Switch
with everyone?
away.
So you guys, obviously, everyone out there as well, probably saw that the Australian Federal Police raided Parliament House during the week.
Yes, they paid Stephen Conroy a visit.
He's a very popular man with the feds, isn't he?
He is.
I like how he's always kind of a step ahead of them. But interestingly enough, Canberra itself is a separate. What is it? Well, not municipality. It's a separate division. So the feds don't have authority there unless they seek authority from the leader of the House, leader of the Senate, to actually even come in. So they obviously got permission from the government to raid. But
That's funny because the federal police provide the local policing
in Canberra, yeah.
for Canberra. Yeah.
But Parliament House itself, they're not allowed to come in unless they're invited in.
Okay.
Anyway, the ALP are claiming that the government obviously used their influence on the AFP and the NBN Co to push for these raids, but Conroy once again has just declared this is subject to parliamentary privilege, have all the records sealed, yada, yada, yada. What I found most interesting was when certain members of the coalition, notably Corey Bernardi, who loves to white out Malcolm Turnbull, came out and said that he's thinking about this, but he's pretty strongly in favour of parliamentary privilege and is going to probably vote with Labor.
He's got some skeletons in his closet. He probably doesn't want to come out.
If you establish a precedent for this to be okay, it affects you forever.
Pretty sure
which
Tony Abbott's
I don't
probably
imagine a lot of senators want to do. But also, man, this is great. He gets to white out Turnbull some more, make him look ineffectual. I mean, these leaks that show Turnbull couldn't manage the communications portfolio, the man who invented the internet, Mr. Harborside Mansion. Look, it's just, I think it's great. It's great. They continue to undermine his power, and it saves. Corey looks like a hero to the Senate. And Corey is not Mr. White Knight.
No.
It's more, if he was wearing white, it'd be like a hood with a point, I guess, maybe.
In Dean's opinion.
Well, sorry, yeah.
In my opinion, he's an odious toad. Not Dean. Corey.
Wow, could go either way. Could go either way. So I think that's interesting anyway.
It's interesting. Like, I've been keeping tracks of this, trying to rack my brains what they're hoping to get out of this. And the only conclusion I can come to is they're not actually trying to find the whistleblower per se. They're just sending a message that any other whistleblowers out there, we're going to try and find you.
Yeah.
It was something that came up in another podcast you probably heard as well, where they were talking about the AFP should just put in their charter now that we chase whistleblowers, because that's all they seem to be doing at the moment. Mm-hmm. They're chasing the whistleblowers for Nauru and the offshore detention. They're more interested, like everyone's more interested in them looking up who actually leaked.
Well, there was a leak from within the
like
AFP suggesting that they acknowledge that the search for this whistleblower and the NBN documents that were leaked are not that important. They're just doing it because certain people have indicated it would be really good if this happened. Which I'm assuming the AFP will now chase the leakers from within the AFP to work out what happened. So it's going to become a circular.
It might also suggest there's certain members of the higher echelons of the AFP that have right leanings.
Yep, probably. I mean, Peter Dutton's an ex-cop. He's pretty right leaning. He's also got the brains of a potato. But
and at the end of the day, this is not achieving anything for the coalition. I don't know why.
Not so ex-police or authoritarian.
It actually makes it newsworthy. Like, they keep bringing up the NBN failure. They're looking for leaks. Can't fucking find them. And
it's like I think across the divide in the general public, everyone sees the NBN as a political football. That's a joke, an expensive joke at this point. And why is the government trying to hide this?
Well, but I think even Barnaby Joyce came out and said that 25 megabits enough. They don't need to get to the 100. People should be happy with 25. He's a forward-thinking guy.
I'd be kind of happy with 25 at the moment, but that's because I'm on considerably less.
So I think the general public's in confusion.
I'm on 40
So
odd.
This is why they can probably sell it to a little bit, sell it to people a bit, because they're going 25. God, I'd love 25. But I mean, people are. But you're on proper NBN. How?
Yeah, I know. I pay for 50 megabit, and it usually averages at about 40
Oh,
something.
okay, gotcha.
I haven't seen anyone on Team Turnbull come out and argue against why this isn't in the national interest.
I haven't seen.
They sort of avoid that aspect of it. They really don't get involved. It's all like, no, the AFP's just doing their thing, hands up in the air.
It's true. It's true.
When it's like, come on, no one's believing that.
I think it's interesting to see Turnbull continues to take these little wounds over time. You know, he's not quite bleeding in the water and there are sharks circling, but very clearly.
Which
Is that more to do with the incompetency of
Well, I mean,
the
there's the
coalition?
incompetence as well, but his conservative politicians,
The
Corey
blood
Bernardi,
is
Eric
in the
Betts,
water. There's no sharks.
They
There's a
are
couple
trying to
goldfish.
undermine him.
That's the problem. Is they're all goldfish, isn't it? Yeah. They're just ill-tempered goldfish.
There was a really interesting.
Because who can take it? I mean, clearly, if there'd been a halfway competent person in the wings, they would have booted him by now. After that atrocious election, after all these other fumbles.
Well, have you
he's
seen
had.
the Murdoch press pushing Scott Morrison as being a
It's
Superman?
Scott Morrison they're pushing, is it?
Yeah, he's a
pushing
fucking idiot
turds.
though. Well, sorry, in my opinion.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. If there was someone actually competent in the wings, it would have happened already. But there isn't.
I think
anyone
it's going to
there.
happen.
It'll happen, but
Not by a competent person, because I think they would see that as a poison chalice. Because I would suggest Julie Bishop.
Yeah,
is
I would
a
think Julie would be
competent
the
individual,
better course as well.
But she probably sees it as, I don't want to get power this way.
Also, she would be regarded like Julia Gillard is regarded for knifing a man in the back, and how dare she stab a man in this country?
But how do you become leader of the party with that?
You can't actually stab Malcolm in the stomach because he's all back. There's no front; it's all back.
When was the last time a
Maybe it's a lack of spine.
Was John Howard the last time a party leader actually resigned or gracefully without actually being...
Just losing an
he
election.
lost his seat.
He lost his seat in the election. Yeah, that wasn't so graceful.
You know what I
In
mean?
some circles, that's considered graceful.
Because every other time it's decided via leadership challenge when someone gets up and knifes the other guy in the back. That's the way it gets decided. So I mean, Julie Bishop, why would she be viewed in any way less deserving of the role than...
I think the problem Julie Bishop's got is that, I mean, particularly if you look at one of the issues I think would be interesting is you look at the gay marriage plebiscite. So 100% of the National Party are against reforms to the laws, the Marriage Act, and about just under half of the Liberals are. So that the Conservatives within the Conservative Party cover more than half of the base. Julie Bishop won't appeal to them, and they've just put up with Malcolm Turnbull. I don't think they'd be willing to put up with another economic liberal from the left side, the little L. I think it's going to be really hard to hold the party together because they have conflicting interests at the moment. The Conservatives, the people who believe in family values, and then the people who believe in economic liberalism and reforming the markets and deregulation of trade hours, they're just coming to loggerheads. They don't have the same. And to some extent, Howard was a really good leader for being able to keep these two disparate interest groups united.
Because they've got a party that's trying to wrench itself into the modern era, and yet they've got a good, as you said, over half of them trying to hold them back in a previous era, which is just it can't last that way. There'll be a division of some kind.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll stay a coalition. It's just maybe they'll become a Conservative Party and they'll become the Liberals, little L. I don't know. I think it's interesting to see, but I don't think Julie could be. I don't think she'll be safe in the leadership role, much like I think Malcolm is safe. There was an interesting op-ed piece in the Sydney Morning Herald this week regarding the stability of Mr. Harbourside Manchin's job. And it was saying that the plebiscite is likely going to be the poison that takes him down. They argue that if it even gets to the plebiscite, the Conservatives are going to want to replace him before the plebiscite happens so they can just not have a plebiscite. But if it does happen and there's a yes vote, the Conservatives are very likely to not going to follow the leader and because they've all said it's a non-binding vote, we're not going to stick with this. So that would look Malcolm looking an ineffectual leader. And if it comes to a no vote and it gets defeated, then Malcolm's just wasted $160 million on something he's very publicly supported in it's sort of a David Cameron way.
And
the have to resign anyway.
And the issue's not going to go away anyway because a no vote just means, well, the people who are in favour of gay marriage will continue fighting exactly.
Well, they should, equal rights.
As they have. So it's bizarre. It's just not going to go away no matter. They're on a hiding to nothing with this plebiscite.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, though, obviously the Greens have come out to say that they're very against the plebiscite. Labor have today issued some fairly strong language suggesting they're going to try and block it in the Senate as well, so there's not going to be a plebiscite. Which I think is the right thing. It should be a parliamentary vote. All of the Conservative MPs, however, are saying, look, this is the only way it's going to get up. If you block the plebiscite, then we're not going to change the Marriage Act under this term of Parliament, which is interesting. And I wouldn't put it past them for doing that. The spiteful, hateful bastards that they are.
It's funny. I was actually going to talk a little bit about this.
You still can.
Bill Shorten coming out and indicating in very strong terms that
Coming
he will
out.
join the Greens and try and block the enabling legislation. So, from my understanding, enabling legislation is how the questions actually framed that will be put to the plebiscite. So Malcolm and his cronies were coming out trying to paint Bill as the villain, trying to paint a picture that he's trying to stop
Mr. Wibblewobble.
same-sex marriage.
Christopher Pine's certainly been trying to paint it that way too.
So yeah, apparently Christopher Pine and Malcolm Turnbull are in favour of marriage equality.
So if
And yet they're arguing that by Labor stopping the plebiscite is going to stop marriage equality. It's like, well, no, actually, you're the government in power. You could issue a vote of conscience if you so choose.
Yeah.
So actually, it's you guys. And they're saying, Australia shouldn't have to wait another 3 years. It's like, no. You're
do
in
it whenever
government.
you like,
You can do it now.
Yeah.
The plebiscite is not the mechanism to enable marriage equality.
Christopher Pine is actually a bit of a political genius, though, I think. Like, when you see him talking about things, he's very, very good at straw-manning people and painting things up to not be what they are and misrepresenting things so that he comes off looking really good and other people look bad. I hate the man, but I quite enjoy the way he plays the game.
And you're probably right. A lot of people don't realise that the plebiscite is
He's
nothing.
He's Littlefinger.
But a lot of people assume, by voting for the plebiscite, we're actually getting the vote on marriage equality. No, you're not voting on anything.
Yeah.
It's a nothing
Well, no,
vote.
you're voting to waste $160 million to have to go back to polling booths. I mean, there's that.
But
Who doesn't love polling booths?
touche if you can pull it off, as Christopher Pine's trying to suggest that Bill Shorten's stopping marriage equality. It's like, hold on, you're the coalition. You're the guys that don't want marriage equality.
To some extent, though, the conservative elements of the coalition are only willing to go along with this if it goes to a plebiscite. If it doesn't go to a plebiscite, they're going to fight it. So I guess what Christopher's saying is, if we don't go to the plebiscite, you're at risk of nothing happening anyway.
But
He's not lying.
He's being wibble-wobble.
Look,
Because the
that's
truth
his
of the
thing.
matter is, there's enough votes, if it was a vote of conscience, to get it over the line.
Maybe.
Nah.
You'd hope so.
Seemingly, it seems there's enough
Well,
support for it.
if you're allowed to vote outside of party lines, it seems like that's the way it would go.
But
Because as you said yourself, there's a good portion of the Liberal Party that would vote for marriage
yeah, but it
equality.
would cost Malcolm his leadership, I think. There'd be a vote of no confidence moved against him.
Malcolm's leadership's...
As soon as he says, I'm going to move a motion to have a open vote about this in Parliament, there's going to be a spill.
Yeah, but as Franco's saying, it's not the Labor Party that's stopping this.
No.
The Liberal Party
And-
has all the power to do
and
And
this.
it's not a
and to be
plebiscite that's
fair-
stopping
Yeah,
this
it's
either.
nothing. It's-
Sometimes you have to do the right thing, even if it costs you your position, Malcolm. I know you listen to the show.
Yeah, are you
In your
familiar with
Harborside
this
mansion.
concept called principles, Malcolm?
No, I don't
You
think
talk
he is.
about
and let's
them.
face it, Malcolm, you're going anyway. It's just a matter of time. So go out on a high note.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? He could actually resurrect his legacy if this is the way he did it. I mean, if he said, right, we're going to do a conscience vote on and gay marriage got through.
I contend he doesn't have a legacy to begin with.
But this would be, and then if he lost his leadership, he
Well,
would
hang on,
at least
Frank,
be the
hang
guy
on.
that got that through.
I mean,
right?
he championed the Republican movement and lost that fight. He lost a very winnable election. He's moved.
He's a proven loser,
Next
is
to
that what we're
no
saying?
policies, and now he may lose the game plebiscite things. He has a legacy. It's not a good one. But he's definitely got a legacy.
I actually think he could improve it. He could at least probably maybe not with the people he cares about. It wouldn't improve.
It seems more important to him to be considered a good leader as opposed to affecting change.
Yeah, and he's neither.
No.
I think it's interesting. I often wonder, because I used to think Tony Abbott was fucking vile. I still do. But seeing the trouble Malcolm very clearly has with the right wing of his party, I'm wondering if Tony wasn't under a lot of the same pressures, A lot of the policies, the policies haven't changed under Malcolm. It's the policy platform of the Liberal Party remains basically the same. The leader doesn't seem to have control over that. He just has to try and sell it. And so Tony sold it he clearly believed in it, would eat an onion for the team. Which is, I've not seen Malcolm eat any onions for the team. But Malcolm, you can see, doesn't believe in it, but he does sort of believe in his party and is desperately trying to drag them into the future.
Whereas Abbott was just completely incompetent, couldn't get anything happening, couldn't get
Well, he's
anything
very
passed.
competent.
He
couldn't-
actually got
opposition
more
leader.
done than Malcolm so far.
He was excellent in opposition.
I mean, hang on. He stopped the
Yeah, he-
votes. He signed the free trade records. He axed the taxes.
He axed the taxes. He could get all that. He got all the stuff passed that everyone was all in agreement with.
Well,
But
he
he
was
could-
excellent at rolling back the achievements of others.
Yeah, and that one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, now we have a budget emergency again
Well,
because of the axed taxes.
Now, do we actually now have an actual budget?
Scott
emergency?
Morrison was addressing the Bloomberg function in Sydney, I think, on Thursday, and he announced basically there was another budget emergency. That if we didn't do something, our $430 billion
So if we
debt
don't
would
if we don't
balloon up
pass
to $1 trillion.
if we don't pass the austerity measures that they want,
Well, actually, it's not just the austerity measures. Apparently, according to Scott Morrison, it's the young people who are to blame for the economic situation of the nation.
Those damn young people.
damn it.
They've grown up, where this expectation is to receive government payments, and it's not just reserved for the disadvantaged, but it's expected to be a component of their income at some point in time in their lives. Damn these people wanting New Start when they're students. Damn them wanting support when they're unemployed. That's not what this country is about. What this country is about is supporting the baby boomers with their properties.
It's those fucking poor's always holding us back.
Yeah, look, if we could just get rid of them, it'd be fine. It didn't stop there. I thought this was actually one of the more interesting things. I really enjoyed Scott Morrison's talk, not because I think he's a good man, but because I think he's an idiot. So the part I found problematic about him blaming the young folk is he's completely downplaying in the next sort of 20 or 10 to 20 years, 1 or 2 decades, about 40 to 50% of all jobs are estimated to go through automation, and he's ignoring that by saying, look, young people aren't going to be on welfare. Fucking half of the population is likely to be on welfare. He also talked about the need for foreign investment, which I thought was interesting, in spite of the fact that he himself blocked the sale of the New South Wales electricity grid, Ausgrid, to Chinese and Hong Kong investors. That was his decision, but we need foreign investment. I thought that was particularly interesting because the newly hostile Senate is made up of one nation who are very protectionist in their economic policies, which I think is another interesting discussion to have at some other point after this. And also Nick Xenophon, who's opposed to free trade deals, wants to protect the South Australian steel industry, which I thought is interesting. So Morrison's going to have a hard time selling that agenda. And then he also took the time
Trade deals seem to be on the nose in general these days. So
I think globalization is on the nose in general.
Yeah. People have figured out what globalization means,
Trump
and it's
one nation here. People aren't in favour of globalization, but Scott Morrison is. He also took the time to defend the banking and financial services industry, suggesting that Labor's calls for a royal commission were careless and that it would only undermine confidence in the financial system and ruin things for everyone. It was almost like he was like, no, you just we've got a bit of a rot going on over here. Don't fucking look under those blankets.
I heard a really good piece where they were talking about the Australian. You remember the LIBOR scandal, London Interbank rate exchange? There was almost exactly the same thing happening here in Australia between the 4 big banks, and it made almost no news. It was just tucked under the shoved under the rug.
Here.
But it was big. It was huge, and if we hadn't been so, because we're more tightly regulated than many other banks, at least there's a lot more protections there. It might have caused the same kind of damage, but as it was, there were billions of dollars that went into certain people's pockets that didn't go into other people's pockets. I mean, they're always talking about how these exchange the basis is the interbank interest rates vary a little bit by a few points every day, sort of thing, and that's the money they trade between each other, and that's basically just an agreed upon rate. And people could ask people to, hey, can you just nudge that up 1% or down 1% or 0.1% or something like that, and it would improve their bottom line by millions and millions of dollars. But of course, and that was normally being taken. Some of the superannuation schemes are saying they're taking the banks to court because they're the ones that were usually losing out on these
Oh wow.
things. So. And their argument was, well, most people didn't notice it because it was such a tiny percentage of each individual person's rate. But on the other end, it was considerably big. But of course, this money comes from somewhere. When someone's making $1 billion, someone's probably losing it somewhere. So
Or many someone's.
yeah.
It would be interesting to see. I mean, Labor's continuing to push for this Royal Commission. Malcolm says it's not required, so there's some good news. It's not needed. Scott Morrison, also not required.
Yeah, well, the banks were, I mean, there's been certain investigations already being done into it, and they were just slow walking all their responses for years and years, getting to the point where it's now reaching the point where it's past the point where they can actually prosecute some people on some of these things as well.
It's a shame.
This is why it's not necessary anymore.
Yeah. It's clearly not necessary. There was because they won't even allow the investigation to find out if anything was actually done wrong.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I mean, it depending on what happens with Turnbull and his leadership and the government in general. I would like to see this motion get up at some point.
Absolutely.
I mean, is it a genuine? The thing about Royal Commissions, they cost a lot of money.
Well, we've already seen that not having the banks adequately regulated costs a lot of money as well.
That's true, but they're also toothless in that they can just make recommendations, and the government of the day is then responsible for implementing those recommendations.
And the next government comes along,
depending on when it cocomes along. Yeah, like if the Royal Commission is towards the end of someone's term, and then the government changes hands, nothing happens. You spend all this money, recommendations made, and like, we're not going to do any of that.
I remember having a similar discussion about the Aboriginal Deaths in Custody Royal Commission, the fact that almost none of those recommendations have been put into practice, and as such, we still have that as
a problem,
as an issue. And for exactly the same reason, change of government, they can totally ignore the previous Royal Commission. So
yeah, so it's an interesting mechanic. It would be nicer if there was something a bit more with a bit more power to enact the change. But I can't see governments willing to put that up at all, to lose their own power. But it's something that needs to happen, I think. But again, Scott Morrison doesn't think that. So, it's the youth who are at fault here.
yeah, well, as I said, those poors, they're costing everyone.
Well, obviously, he's got to appeal to his base. It's not you guys. You haven't caused the economic emergency. It's not these capital gains reductions we've got in place, or negative gearing, or any of the taxes that Tony's axed. That none of that is the problem.
Well, the progressive taxation system hasn't been graduated properly for the last 30 years or
They
something.
just need to stop drinking Red Bull and purchasing exciting haircuts.
And for God's sake, pull your pants up.
I mean, if they're going to purchase exciting haircuts, at least pay an Australian major company for that. Don't go to some corner store business. So make sure you get it from Woolworths.
Well, I'm out.
Me too.
I am done.
That's a wrap. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Franco.
I've been Jason.
I've been Dean.
Wibble wobble.